And what we're doing as human beings is we're unconsciously projecting our own suffering and our own lack of awareness onto other human beings. So if I don't like what's going on inside of me, I point it out in you. So whenever you're telling someone, I really wish you would do this, or you're so selfish, or you can't see something in someone else unless you too possess it. So I want to repeat that one more time. You cannot point something out in someone else unless you too possess it.
Don't tell my husband.
Yeah, so we're really not raised with a belief system to talk about what we love about ourselves. And so maybe some of us were. I will be the first to volunteer in the room that I was not. And so what happens when we're growing up, if we're not raised with a belief system to really love who we are, all of who we are, what happens is that wounded self that comes along when somebody does something that hurts us, and it could be small, it could be massive, or it could kind of build up over time, that little wounded small self ends up creating a survivor self. And then that survivor self says, well, we're never going to be funny in front of people again. So that funniness that you bring in the room, you got to hide in the shadows, which creates a shadow self. And then we grow up and we think our survivor self when we go into the adult world is who we really are. Can anyone relate? Work harder, do more, learn more, and there's a lot of doing that happens in leadership development. No one really talks about being. Has anyone given you a being plan for your leadership development? So you mentioned the word integration. That's actually what I help my clients do, is wake up, that's what consciousness is, and then learn to integrate those parts of themselves back together. And I want to just be really clear before we dig into the workbook today. In this world of leadership development, people think the ego's the enemy. There's actually a book about it called The Ego's the Enemy. The ego is actually your survivor self, and really it shows up in all parts of yourself. But its job is to protect you. So I'm hoping as I take you through these activities today, when you leave here, you'll realize the job isn't to cut the ego out of the equation and say you can never show up again. If you do this work correctly, what you can do is invite the ego's energy of protection, that warrior type energy, to actually help you do the hard work to pull it all back together instead of working so hard to separate it and keep it in parts of your house and in your mind that you hope nobody ever sees. So open up your workbook. The first thing we're going to delve into is just a little overview to help you understand your inner world better. Just like the reference was for the flowers, every single one of the flowers in here you picked up, it uniquely represents who you are. There's a 1 in 34 million chance that someone has the same strengths and talents as you in the world. So once we get the self-awareness to understand how our brain works, we can actually then modify and work with it to have it work in our benefit. This work is paramount to diversity and justice and equity and inclusion, because until we build a belief system that A, I can completely and unconditionally love myself as the unique person that I am, I cannot learn to do that and love someone else for their uniqueness. This is the work of consciousness. Until we wake up and name it, some of us don't even realize that we're living in it on autopilot. So our work right now in the world is to do this, to say, who am I and how can I start remembering and reminding myself, this is me, and sit down and ask you, can you tell me who are you? And here's the magic thing about consciousness. Once you wake up and you have an awareness, all the hard work is done, because the easy part now is, oh, look at me trying to overgive or overplease again. I don't think I want to do that today. I think I'm going to try on something different. It's just like putting on a different outfit. The worst part, I think, that we're dealing with in this whole personal development space is we get all excited and it's rah, 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 and then we go home and then we're just deflated and overwhelmed and go back to life as usual and nothing really happens. Anybody have that experience? So you cannot take somebody somewhere in life that they can't first go in their mind. So I cannot take you to a place of don't overgive, read this book, it's so great, until you wake up and go, wait a minute, I didn't ever want to be a cheerleader. And that's the most important work of doing the inner work, is saying, who am I and what do I really want? What's really going on inside of me? Now you can choose, where does that information take you as it relates to who you want to be in the adult world.